Greetings, Champlain Wave Riders, and welcome to another Wave Podcast episode. My name is Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and I have the pleasure of being here again with Dr. Tom Myers to discuss, this is episode 4 of the Spirituality, Meaning, and Purpose mini-series that is also a part of Innovating Forward. Welcome, Dr. Tom Myers.
Thanks, Kim. Great to be here once again.
Good. Was that enough saying innovating forward? Okay. Remember, they can splice and dice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, today's episode, this is our topic of discussion, and it is so exciting to sort of dive in head first to, the whole idea of young adults in sort of a spiritual crisis. And we've talked about different things along the way. And now what we'd like to talk about is purpose, having a sense of purpose as being sort of a key component of our well-being. What do you have to say about that, Tom?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think one thing we'll say at the outset is that when we say purpose, it can be overarchingly, an overwhelming kind of feel is that you need to have a sense of purpose in your life. And it doesn't have to be that level of a magnitude that you're going to change the world or you're going to cure cancer or relieve world hunger, whatever that might be. So a sense of purpose is one that is subjective to you, and it doesn't. I think we have to release the pressure that we put on ourselves that we have to have a purpose that's going to have a huge magnitude. It's essentially what you're called to do, and we'll get into some of the discussions around what you're called to do and kind of how to find that.
I really like how you said that, Tom, because I think oftentimes, because you said, basically you don't have to be in the Peace Corps to make a difference, right? And it's so important for us to realize that, and especially young adults as they're, coming into their own, figuring out who they are and all that sort of thing, that you can make a difference wherever you are. It doesn't matter what your job is or what it's all on the inside, right? Mm-hmm. It's what you're called to do and your interactions with people all day long.
Yeah, and I think it's your orientation of where you are in life and what speaks to you with your core values. And I always like to think about life as, if you look at it in the context of a book, it can be a series of chapters. So as you're going through life, you're not just reading one huge long tome that's going to be your life. It's a series of chapters. So what could be your purpose for early part of your life, chapter 1 or chapter 2? You can always close that chapter and move on to another. So sense of purpose, yes, there is kind of a thread that wends its way throughout your life as part of your purpose, but the intensity and I guess the punctuation of purpose can change throughout life. So early part of your life, it might be my purpose is fill in the blank. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Middle part of my life, my purpose is this. And towards the end and going on to throughout the end of your life, it could be a different purpose. So they can always change. And it's not one that you have to hold fast to, that this is going to be my sense of purpose from the very beginning, the day I was born, till the day I die. This is me.
Right.
Like I said, there's a thread of that part
right.
of your core values and what you believe in. But the intensity and the priorities can change. So I think it's not to put so much pressure on yourself for that sense of purpose.
Right. And it seems like, maybe correct me if I'm wrong totally, that we are who we are on the inside, right? And maybe it's the context that changes. I'm a fabulous 58, and I know that in addition to being like doing the best job as a mother I could possibly do, my other main, sense of meaning and purpose has always been as an educator. Mm-hmm. And so, there's the professor. We both professors, right? But also when we present, when we speak, when I run certain clubs here, it's all still education. It's just the context is changing. Yeah. And even being a parent involves education too. So maybe as they're going along, it might look different. But is that main drive sort of the same?
Yeah, I think you have that intensity of a drive for your sense of purpose. And I was just going to say, too, also you have a new sense of purpose as a grandmother.
Oh, I do.
So you're a mom, but then a grandma. So what changes as you go through life having a grandchild? How does that now change your sense of purpose as a grandparent? So it just kind of is a great illustration of how things will change.
I
Yeah.
love that, Tom. I love it because of the context. Because I really, truly, you and I believe it. My dear friend Oprah believes it too. That there is that one thing that we know we were put on this earth to do, right? And you know it by how you feel, because you know how when it feels right. And then again, the context of that changes as we get older. It looks different, right? But tell me now, because how would you? Because meaning and purpose are so intimately and intricately tied. What would you say about the meaning component to someone's purpose and needing
Yeah.
a sense of meaning?
We just want to read a quote. This is by Dr. William Damon, who's a developmental psychologist from Stanford University, and I think it answers some of this. So it states, purpose is the forward-pointing arrow that motivates our behavior and serves as the organizing principle in our lives. It's part of one's personal search for meaning, but it also has an external component, the desire to make a difference in the world, to contribute to matters larger than the self. So I think those sense of purpose and meaning and what is meaningful to your life and what creates an emotional, positive feedback and positive stimuli, that sense of meaning as a component of creating what you're called to do as a sense of purpose. And I think that having, when you're on the wrong path and
You feel it.
you're off from your purpose. What is your
Right.
purpose? And so then the feedback is meaning. Is it creating a meaningful life? Am I feeling as though I am, in terms of my purpose, as educating? Let's say the example of being educators and educating the future generations. And when we get to a feedback of it's losing its meaning, it's losing its emotional power of fulfilling that purpose. I think the meaning piece and feeling that you're making a difference and having that is that shorter term feedback for longer term purpose.
Right.
Purpose
I mean,
with
because
objectives.
again, and I know Oprah's talked about that a lot actually when she talks about her whole trajectory from when she was like 23, and she just when she was in her first job, it's just everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you landed the newscaster, and she was miserable. Like she knew that exploiting people, with their stories wasn't it, and she talked about when she made the switch out of that. The charge from landing in the right place was huge. It was like green lights, like you say. She just knew for sure that she had landed in the right spot. It was kind of a paraphrase situation there, but it also has me thinking of Abe Maslow. I love him. And you can see that pyramid of needs sometimes is only 5 tiers, and the top one is self-actualization and knowing what we're meant to do. But the 6th one is how it was there originally, which is transcendence, which is what you're talking about how important it is to have that sense of meaning and purpose with being connected to something larger than ourselves, and how huge that is. Can you maybe elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that, again, we can't we can't do it on our own. We have to have a guiding force, and however you want to define that, be it God, be it Tao, be it the universe, source, however you define that. But knowing, and I guess it's for me personally, it's a comfort to know that I have a sense of purpose and I'm being guided in that sense of purpose, and that the right things will come to me at the right time, be it resources, people, events, financial support. When I know I'm fulfilling that purpose, meaning feedback is coming back to me, and that is also underscoring the fact that I'm on the right path. So having those green lights, and when you're on the wrong path, and that you're doing things that are the antithesis of what you should do or counter to what you feel is naturally part of your guiding star or your moral compass, if you will. Again, doing something that's dishonest, you know that that's going to be an assault and a check against what you're feeling. And imagine you're going to get a lot of red lights from going down that wrong path.
Right. And I know you and I have talked about this, Tom, but that feeling of alignment, and like my brief Oprah story there, she felt an alignment when she got into what she's been doing for ever since, right? And I've experienced that quite a bit, that charge of being right on, like flying around the classroom and thinking about it the whole way home. And this one finally, said something. And this one finally spoke up, and that one said this, and the charge of the room, and it just feels right.
Feel that energy.
You feel that energy.
Exactly.
So I think when we get off or out of alignment, right? You and I were talking about this earlier. That can often be, that's obviously on track and in alignment is the authentic self. And the evil twin of the authentic self is the ego. So did you want to say something about ego?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. And of course, we as human beings, we want to manage everything. And we feel that we are the ones in control, that no external force or external person is going to create it for us. So it gives us a sense of feeling control, a feeling of being on top of things, that if we, with our ego, decide that we can override any other plan that might be for us, be it divine or be it an external, force that or a force that is obviously transcends you, something, as we said earlier in the quote, about larger than yourself. So I think we have to think more about when we feel it's our ego that's going to take over, that there's a funny little acronym of, edging God out.
EGO.
EGO, ego. So if you say, oh yeah, I don't need, this higher self or higher being or God, I don't need that. I can do it on my own. It's edging that maybe that divine purpose that is there for you, that you have to tap into. Again, however you define it, but know that there is something larger than yourself that's out there that is helping you, and again, in a benevolent, supportive,
right,
loving way.
Abundance. And I know for me, it's such a charge. You put it out there, and it's like a faucet you can't shut off. Not that you'd want to, but it's just synchronicity guy here I have with me. It just happens.
Exactly. And those things are going to come to you when you need them at the right time.
Yes, exactly.
You have to believe that.
That's that. So we're talking about trusting the process, right, with a capital P. Call it universe, source, or whatever. But that when the ego gets in the way, that's when we end up not in such a good place, right?
And the beauty of this whole series we're doing on spirituality is that this topic and this very central essence of our conversation is threaded through each of our podcasts. So we're talking about purpose and meaning today, and how does your interaction and your life of spiritual connectedness help to support your pathway to a meaningful and purposeful life?
Oh, 100%, Tom. And I think too, it's good because we've been, Tom and I are obviously our niche is higher education, and so we've been talking about through all 4 podcasts the spirituality crisis amongst young adults. And I know I've seen it with mine. I think you have too. That and we actually do a whole bunch of activities in Mindcraft about helping young adults find their sense of meaning and purpose, and they're pretty clear. Sometimes they look at me like with glazy eyes, like, "What do you mean?" And we're not talking about 20 years from now. I'm talking about today. What is your meaning and sense of purpose right now in this room? And they come out of the activity with something, which is great. But what do you think?
What would be some
you would
examples?
say?
What are some examples that you've experienced or you've witnessed where when you define this and put it in a framework where they can understand, oh, this is this is what my purpose is. What are some of the revelations that you've seen students come back with?
Huge light bulbs go on. One of the big, I like to say, it's like the buzzword with me lately, hang around with some marketing people, but the one-line survey, what would have you absolutely on fire, excited to get to your career. Not the career itself. Don't care about that right now. Later we will, because we do another thing after that with a different activity. But leave that alone. There's no career right now. Just what do you know about yourself that's not about the paycheck? Because let's just say the money's fine, but you can't wait to get there, and you're thinking about it on the way back. And often it's I want to make a difference with kids. Sometimes it's being outside. I had a couple of outdoor education students. They're like, if you had me in a cubicle farm, I would shrivel up and die. I know that about myself. And also, knowing what you don't want is equally as important, right, as what you do want. And sometimes they really kind of look around at the ceiling and they're like, aha, light bulb, because they've had it in their head that they're on this programmed, conditioned track, often influenced by family members or whatever. And they're like, wait a minute. I don't think that's what I want to, what I really want to do is a lot of freedom themes, because, Champlain attracts a lot of creatives. So a lot of times it's a problem-solving thing that fills them up. Like they want to be able to constantly be stimulated and figure out things. A lot of them want a flexible work life. And not just meaning flexibility with time, that too, but the creativity thing, like freedom to self-express via graphic design. There's a lot of that, a lot of difference making, but it pours out of them. There's much too much to talk about now, but it's an activity that it's guiding, and but it's in there. It's like an archaeological dig. You got to chisel at it a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's something that you hit upon. It's something that excites me personally, is helping and for people to understand first what is your personality,
signature strengths.
Yeah, and your signature strengths, right? So there are things that you and I love to do, right? That, be it creative, be it talking, be it writing, whatever that might be. And that's the beauty of of human beings, is there's no two that are exactly alike of all 8 billion people on this earth. So everyone is unique. Everyone has their own specific personality and how they interact with the world. There's signatures, you said signature strengths and signature personality. So what might work for someone is, this is my meaning, this is my purpose, this is what I'm going to do in life. Maybe laudable from someone else, but may not work for someone else. So that's the beauty of it can't be cookie cutter. So that's what I suggest for students, is to really understand who you are as your personality. How do you take in information? How do you interact with the world? What types of work environments or play environments that really suit you? And then so you're the basis of a personality. And then layer on those signature strengths. What are the strengths that you possess that really creates high levels of intrinsic motivation?
There you go, intrinsic motivation,
and
passion driven.
It's not me telling you what you want to do.
High
but
octane passion.
This is what I feel. I'm like such an incredible writer. I'm such an incredible mathematician.
I'm happiest
incredible
when.
Helping people.
Right.
I'm happiest when. So it's really to define that. And that's kind of the core, those not tools, I shouldn't say that, but they're, who you are as the methods for helping you to employ those to find your purpose.
Because the intrinsic motivation is the key.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, Tom, and just be super clear, we're not dismissing in any way the opinions of parents, However, sometimes I'll get first years in there who have heard I've been told I'm good at computers, I'm good at, and maybe they are, but if you hate it, that's what I mean, or maybe not. I don't like the word hate's too strong, but dislike it. Not you're not. It maybe it's even just like neither way, but it's a neutral. You're not on fire for it, And I've had it happen more than a few times where a student will come and sit in my office and sit in a chair and say, I'd really love to teach third grade. But they're in a whole different major and a whole different, and they're feeling that pressure. Again, I'm not dismissing, because we all need, obviously, good, strong parents, loving parents, and all that. We're not saying that. But sometimes they're kind of figuring out that, this isn't really what I want to do. I want to do this.
Yeah, you're getting validation from extrinsic motivators, right?
Right.
parents or other people telling you, you are really good at this. You're really
And maybe
great
you
at it."
are.
And maybe you are, but it doesn't drive much energy.
doesn't drive much
personal
energy,
experience,
yeah.
same thing for me, doing work where maybe I'm really good at organizing, really great at taking notes and recording notes, right? Do I like it? No.
Right.
Not at all. I'm good at it because it's just what I've had to learn to do.
Right.
And then you get that external validation, as I said earlier, like, wow, you're really good at this. Can you do it again? So again, it's one of those things that one breeds another, and like you continue to go where you get a reputation or you get, your recognition for doing great things, this types of skills.
But if you force that for a couple decades, where are you going to land?
And you can make it work, but it's probably going to eat you up inside.
You're going to be 45, hit the wall, and be miserable, right? So
it's really important. The thing of this conversation is really important to listen to your inner intrinsic motivation.
Your inner voice.
Taking your personality, your strengths, and what is really exciting for you and to you, that's what you use going forward to kind of define your purpose.
Right. This is sounding like Strength Scope, which I know is Tom's all too familiar with, which is an inventory. And there are a ton of these on the internet, which are mostly free. Strength Scope is not, but I like it because Tom keeps using the word like what excites you, excites you. And the reverse of that is what drains you, right? So we're not saying, oh, I suck at this. You might be okay at the detail thing, but it's not exciting. It's draining. For me, details are extraordinarily. Don't come at me with an Excel sheet. I can do it, of course, but it's awful. I look forward to it like a root canal, right? But if you know that you're excited being with people, you're excited making a difference, you're excited being creative, you're excited problem solving.
You feel it. You feel viscerally, emotionally feel that. Right, exactly.
Because you can't wait to do it. I feel that way about teaching and everything that is teaching related, like the workshops I run and whatever. That's all education. Same thing. But by how you feel.
Yeah. And you can kind of get into that, word that's sometimes overused, but that flow state.
Flow state. Work of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
Yeah, and you have no idea what time has passed. You're so
totally
lost in the world. You're finding a bigger sense of yourself, and you're
totally
achieving. It's challenging, but it's not too stressful, stress creating. So it's finding that really is a good telltale sign of that flow. You're in flow, that flow state. It's probably a good indication that
you're on the right track.
You're on the right track, and that therein lies the possibility of where your purpose is.
Oh my God, it's 100% true. Tom and I both experienced this, thankfully, and you also have to be in the receiving mode for it too. You got to create the time and all of that. But flying around the classroom or doing workshops or presentations for and this is a clockless campus. I used to have like the time there because I'd keep them till midnight.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're like in the zone, and you like you said too, you lose track of time. But it's almost like you're at one, or let's say you're a musician, you're at one with the piano. You feel like you're literally. And Tom's also a big scuba diver. You're at one with the reef, all the cleanup you're doing down there. You're not thinking about anything else, right?
Yeah, you definitely
ultimate mindfulness.
Yeah, ultimate mindfulness, present. And
in the present moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
And joyful.
And I'll say something too is that finding your purpose. Let's go to contrast. Let's go to the relativity of what doesn't work. And I think we talked about wisdom earlier, the concept of wisdom.
Yeah.
And gaining wisdom through experience. And, my life and many people, we've done many, many, many things, many jobs that we were not suited for. But you needed to do that to pay the bills. Obviously, as a younger guy doing a lot of, labor-related kind of work, a lot of it, I did it because I had to pay the bills. I had to pay, earn money. It was a good reference for what I didn't want to do later in life. So 100%. Young people need to go through the experience of doing things that you don't want to do. And
I did a lot of it too through
so
graduate
I think that's
school.
Something really important for young folks now to kind of go through and understand. It's part of gaining wisdom, and it's part of collecting these experiences that do enrich us and make us better for it, strengthen us in many, many ways, and also it helps to clearly define maybe your future path for purpose, what you do want to do, what can work, and what you don't want to do, and the people you want to work with and the people you
don't want to
right?
work. Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Tom, because we're both Tom and I both have pretty solid work ethics, and we're both big fans of grit. We're not saying that, and it might be you eventually, if you choose to be a parent, you have a couple of kids, you might be doing some extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're not saying that because that's part of being a grown up and whatever. But the point is, I was thinking, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts all the way through my master's degree at Boston College, and I did an overnight something for a while, which was awful. It was so hard to be just for money when I was younger to do that and then work on, and then go to school. It was hard. You have to do things sometimes, and that's all character building. So we're not saying that, but to keep your eye on the prize, though.
Mm-hmm.
So embrace the contrast and the direction it's giving you, and also toughing it out with grit to do what you need to do, pay the bills, and to still be listening to land and be guided to what you're meant to do in this world. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You never want to denigrate, or you never want to discount that type of work. It helps to define you, and you never know where it's going to lead. Whom you're going to meet while you're on this job.
Totally.
Or, it helps to define your future, but going back to that openness of finding the resources that will come to you. Again, you can be open and try to be open all the time, regardless of what you're doing for work.
Right.
Because new resources and new opportunities are going to fulfill themselves then.
100%. I'm glad we made a point of that, because, having a tenacious work ethic is just absolutely admirable,
Mm-hmm,
no matter what you're doing. And I know my husband and I had to do a lot of stuff when we had 5 kids. When they were younger, we did all kinds of things before the holidays, and for whatever, and just to keep the lights on in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
You got to do what you got to do, and we need everybody. And it's not about that. It's just work really hard, and then have this awareness through the whole thing about what all the signals are. Right? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely, yep.
So Tom's come up with some things about things you can ask yourself maybe after listening to this podcast, if you've gotten some, had some introspective nudging going on, right? Ask yourself, what have you observed in the past that has given you a feeling of purpose? Think about those green lights, as Tom says, that you felt good. It could have been a situation of mentoring. It could have been, I'm thinking I did the Big Brother, Big Sister program at St. Mike's, and I was excited every single day I met with that little boy. This is like an example. I take 2 buses and to get there and everything, spend an hour and a half and go back. I was on a high for 2 weeks. Think about what have you observed in the past that has given you a feeling of purpose, and really, maybe I'll let Tom say this. What would you have them bring it into your consciousness, and then what do you want them to do with it?
Yeah, I think I'm reminded of a course I taught called Purpose, Meaning, and Happiness. And it was a college-level first-year course. And so you think about, well, the first thing I want to be is happy. And I'm going to focus on the last word of this title is, what can I do that is going to make me happy? And if we focus solely on our personal happiness, number one, it can be short-term. You can be happy for a while, but that it's fleeting, right? Life changes, and you're kind of be looking at living, as Aristotle says, kind of a hedonistic life.
Yeah, hedonistic treadmill.
What are you looking to get, right? So, and I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who said something, I'm paraphrasing, but something to the effect of, happiness is the byproduct of purpose and meaning.
Oh, no question.
When you find a purpose, that's going to then come back to that feedback loop, or that's going to create the happy feeling and happy emotions. So in my class, I think students thought, I'm going to take this class because it's going to make me happy. And I think what they found is that they had these situations, these experiences. Well, it was actually me helping the elderly woman who spilled her groceries in the grocery store. I helped her to pick them up. And the feeling that I got, my sense of purpose at that moment, purpose to help this person who needed assistance, as I walked out of the grocery store, how great I felt and how happy I felt. again, not just for that action, but it was something that you were called to do, and you created that. And that was the, again, here's the byproduct. Happiness is the byproduct of that purpose in that moment of helping someone else.
Oh gosh, you just stirred something up in me too, Tom. Because when I was working at Dunkin' Donuts as in graduate school, I loved the people there, and I had a really good time. What was hard is just all the hours at the same time. I feel like I had 2 full-time jobs, but wonderful people. And I remember it now at 58, and then I was like 24 or 5, and it was a packed crowd. We were waiting on at the countertop, and there was a man came up who clearly had cerebral palsy, and it was hard to understand him. And I had a professor, at St. Mike's way back when, that I absolutely loved. He was one of my favorite professors, which is the only reason he had it also, the cerebral palsy. The only reason I really had seen what it looked like was because I had experienced it with one of my favorite biology professors. And one of there were a lot of teenagers working there, and one of them said something kind of snide under her breath. And I said, no, we just have to be paid. I forget what I said now, so long ago, but I said something kind and nice. He thanked me 3 times before he went out the door, because here he was, intelligent, and was just trying to convey what he was saying. And I mean, remembering this how many years later, and I felt such a sense of purpose just because, and it's not a big story there, right? But that I recognized a need that I wouldn't have otherwise had if I hadn't experienced it before, and kind of got away from her commentary that was making him not feel very good.
It's a great story. Yeah, that's those little things that stick with you, right?
Well, saying purpose, do you have to be in the Peace Corps? No. And on the reverse end of that, I'm sure you have too. I've had incredible experiences of kindness, like with bank tellers, and you're not thinking Peace Corps per se. It doesn't matter where you are. Where you are, we can extend something and get a sense of meaning and purpose from it. And then Tom also has come up with his other question here. I think we covered the PERT change over time, maybe not. Okay, here's another one. So here's Dr. Tom's second question is, what ways might you find your purpose going forward?
Yeah, I think it's listening to your emotional gut, that intuitive sense, that what makes you, as you said, Kim, come alive. What makes you feel that you're energized by this? So it's entwining and kind of bringing together who you are, your personality, your strengths, and your core values, and what you believe in. I think listening and to those and doing a bit of an inventory.
Right.
And then what drives you. What is it helping people? Is it helping the environment? Is it helping to solve a very complicated equation that's going to create a breakthrough for others? I mean, you kind of understand yourself to understand your purpose.
Right.
Maybe that's the bottom line, is understand yourself to understand your purpose.
Oh my gosh, I'm just so big on understanding yourself, and it takes a lifetime to really know your own value, right? And that's definitely a key to really figuring out what your purpose is. And then Dr. Tom's third one is, can your sense of purpose change over time? We addressed that a little bit, more of a change of context, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, it can change over context. I think it's also as I was, quoting earlier and discussing, what is your contribution to the world?
Yeah.
Contribution to your community, to your family, to your friends. What is the contribution to others? The magnitude of, again, solving world hunger or racism or whatever it might be worldwide that we're facing, or, how do you start with just what's in front of you?
Being a good mom is to me,
yeah,
is my most important, biggest accomplishment of my life. The rest of it is also fun, but to me that was the most important.
Yeah, and I think you can also, how many times have we heard the same exercise? Stephen Covey talking about begin with the end in mind. But imagine yourself, at your own funeral. What would people be saying?
What would people say about you? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's quite a, some insight that you can take with you. Like, what would people say?
Right.
And
That's huge if you think about it. It's like so deep.
were you a caring, loving, kind person?
Went out of your way for people.
Yeah. So if there's anything that young folks can kind of take with them today, is just kind of imagine what people would say as a eulogy for your, at your funeral.
It's interesting you say that too, because Tom and I are big Wayne Dyer fans, and I got this one from him yesterday, I think, too. He happened to have Louise Hay in his audience, who I'm also a big fan of, and he was talking about what a privilege it was to have her. If you don't know who she is, look her up on Google. She's since passed. She was amazing. She was 60 years old when she decided to change her thinking and really reflect on the person she wanted to be. And she did this really conscious, like bullet points. I want to be this way. I want to be this way. And at 60 years old, she got on this whole trajectory. Ended up creating Hay House Publishers, and it's only for books that are about spirituality, meaning, and purpose. That's it. She doesn't take novel, like fiction and everything like that. It's all about personal growth, spiritual growth. And when she was in that audience, she had just turned 80. And turned it around. I don't even know turned around from what, but she did this conscious thing at 60 years old to find her sense of purpose. How cool is that?
Grandma Moses?
She was 72 or 73 or something when she painted her first.
Never too
late. Never too late.
But I think the wonderful thing we're imparting to young folks now in education is like, here's some insight, here's some tools, here's some ways of thinking going forward about your sense of purpose and what brings meaning to your life. So, if there's anything that folks can take with them, young folks can take with them right now, it's just, hey, who are you? What are the strengths you possess?
Right.
To enact and employ them to your sense of purpose to do for others.
And how important that is, obviously for the greater good, but also for our own well-being, because lots of people said, I'm thinking mainly Viktor Frankl, but a life without meaning and purpose is a straight road to depression. That's the other flip side of it, right? Or at the very least, sadness. So we're hardwired for meaning and purpose and a connection to something bigger than ourselves. Like, we're hardwired for that, wouldn't you say, Tom?
Yeah. And Frankl said, just having something to, having a sense of purpose, something to look forward to, something to live for. And that's huge. And I can't remember the exact research that's gone into this, but when you're taking folks who are living in a nursing home and they are given something as simple, someone in a nursing home who is lonely, who does not have a lot of family, does not have friends who are coming to visit, when they're given a plant or something to take care of, let's say a plant, what their orientation to life and how that changes because they have a purpose. Their purpose now is to take care of this living plant and keep it alive and let it and create it to flourish. So again, what does that do to your mindset? I have something to take care of. I have a sense of purpose. It's to take care of this plant, if nothing else. And so there's something to, again, as simple as that, it's something to live for.
Absolutely. I love that example. It's probably a good place to wind ourselves up. So what I would like to say is thank you to our Champlain College Wave Rider listeners. And I will say that this is Dr. Kimberly Quinn and
Dr. Tom Myers
signing off. Have a mindful day.